Hey everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino, back yet one more time for my post-market wrap-up on this freakishly lovely day. It really was freakishly lovely, and we're going to talk about a few things, try to gain a perspective on what's going on, and, well, I guess I should start off with the date, Friday, September 7th, 2018. Alright, so what I want all of you to know right off the bat, there's a lot of people that are in denial here, and I heard from several of you today. We are in a full-blown trade war, which is now escalating. President Trump has promised additional tariffs on top of the initial $200 billion, now another $267 billion against China. Okay. There's no end in sight here, in my view. I think this is going to get worse before it gets better. Now understand, with that said, notice the word I just used, all warfare is based on deception. Okay? You don't believe me? Look it up for yourself. So what I'm trying to get at here is when you hear numbers with regard to, let's say, unemployment, understand that they're not real. There's a lot of distraction going on here from everyone, the president on down, regarding these unemployment numbers. Remember this, what I'm about to tell you, if you take nothing else away. President Trump himself, during the campaign, said these numbers, the way they are calculated, are not real. They were being used to make President Obama look better, but nothing has changed. The way these numbers are calculated is exactly the same, but now they have become real. There are some out here that think you and I are really stupid, and it's the truth is, people can't remember, honestly, what they ate for dinner last night. So forget about remembering something from a few years ago, but this is the truth. So the numbers are fake. It's all, again, propaganda. The GDP numbers are propaganda. We are in a war. All warfare is based on deception. Now, I'm going to say this again, and I don't want to hear any asinine comments about this. The actual amount of people in the labor force, people that are working here, is less today than it was during the financial crisis. Now, I don't want to hear people saying, oh, this is a demographic issue. Is part of that in the equation? Of course it is. But understand, we are still at or very near historic lows with regard to the labor force participation rate. So we have people, yes, that are leaving the workforce. We have people coming in as well. Do you believe that we should be anywhere near where we are today with regard to the labor force participation rate? If we really had an unemployment rate of 3.9, would you imagine, let's just rub a couple of brain cells together here, do you believe that we would have a labor force participation rate where it is today? Absolutely freaking not. But again, it's the propaganda. You have to be led to believe things are better than they are. The world has to be led to believe things are better than they are. Why? Because all war is based on deception. We are in a trade war. Let's talk further about this trade war before I talk about some other things too. So we understand that a precedent was set when the farmers got their $12 billion bailout because they were hurt by tariffs. This was done to, again, almost an insignificant number. In the grand scheme of things, $12 billion, it was floated out there to see how the public would respond to, again, more public bailouts, your cash. More are coming as this trade war escalates. There's no doubt about it. Again, it was a trial balloon, and more is going to come, and no one's going to say a word because people in this country have really gotten dumbed down to the point where they're subhuman. That's the truth as well. Who's getting hurt here? Well, small business owners are already screaming from rooftops saying, you know what, we're getting hurt here with regard to these trade wars already, and we haven't seen anything yet. But what is this doing? It's allowing the corporations to benefit from the regular guy, the regular girl out there struggling to get their small business off the ground. So, look, we exist in the United States of corporate America. The mom and pop shops are gone, all right? And this is another mechanism here that will be sure to squash small businesses. Now, the multinational corporations, they can weather a storm like this, especially because corporate America has seen a boom since President Trump was elected, for which I explained to all of you publicly. I said this was a game changer. Stock market was going to rip higher. It's exactly what has happened. So they have a nice fat cushion, corporate America does, to get through this storm. Now, the regular guy, the regular girl, the small business, no, they don't have the parachute. They do not have that golden parachute. You understand? So if you look at everything, how it's being put together here, how the Federal Reserve at this point is at the forefront, top of that pyramid, keeping their foot to the floor. Now, it's not just the Fed. Every single world central bank, along with their respective leader, is doing the same exact things at the same exact time. Understand, this is a rigged game, and I don't care who sits in that pretty White House. Doesn't matter. They can have good intentions. Doesn't work. And it's all going to be skewed in a way that the middle class will continue to be evaporated. Now, some big retailers are coming out. As a matter of fact, today I posted a snapshot of this on Twitter and Facebook, are warning that you and me are going to start paying a lot more for things. That's these tariffs. They're just starting to hit our pocketbooks. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't need to do anything about these trade imbalances that have been going on since time immemorial. That's the truth. Something does have to be done about it. But this entire thing could have been done in a different manner. And I've covered this before. I will not cover it again here. This was done with the trade wars, with the central banks, for a reason right now. Because look at the stock market. And we keep, this is another thing I want to cover real quick. We got more warnings today one from Goldman Sachs, a couple of other investment banks, talking about this market, where we are right now, trying to at least say, hold on a minute, things are getting really distorted here. There's definitely a disconnect from reality, and there's going to be a moment of reckoning. Does this sound familiar to you? Well, it should. These are absolutely the truth. But it's going to be ignored, just like it was in 2008, just like it was during the dot-com bubble and every other bubble before that. If you notice, there's kind of like a 10 or a 15-year spread between meltdowns or corrections to fair value. And that's what's going to happen here. These corrections to fair value are not, it's not by chance that they happen every X amount of years. The X amount of years is how long it takes for when the bubbles burst to reinflate the bubbles, and then again burst those bubbles, transfer the wealth that was built up over that decade or so, and move it to the 1%. Very simple. It's the way it works. Now let's talk about a couple of other things, the way it works. Today, stocks were down at one point almost 180 points, I think 177 points, and I had said, watch the bond market in the video I did earlier today. Well, if you had done that, soon as the bond started to almost like bottom out, they started to prop up those bonds, stocks started to rebound. Then all of a sudden, that propping up the bond market failed. It failed at least 2 times today. However, stocks did finish in the negative, not by much. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, I think about 77 points or so, well off of the lows. Now, if you also noticed when these failures to prop up the bond market. They didn't work. A mysterious, again, wave of stock buying occurred. I wonder where that came from. Maybe the Federal Reserve's trading desk, maybe the Wall Street banks working in concert, maybe other world central banks too. We'll never know who's buying here because it's all done through the institutions are using the dark pools. It can't be traced. That's the truth. So anyway, so much going on here, people, and understand that what we're witnessing here, on top of the propaganda, the fact that we are in a war, all war is based on deception. Don't believe anything that you hear from the president on down. Again, when there's a battle going on, the general has to do what he has to do, okay, to keep the enemy off balance. So the enemy doesn't really know. They're not really sure what's going on here. But the American people are so dumbed down. They're very easy to string along in any way. And the way people are so divided here in our country, it even makes it more simple. We are sincerely polarized. You got to stay somewhere in the middle. You can't be on either side of that bell curve. The people here always get hurt the most. So don't be this group of idiots or this other group of idiots. Find yourself somewhere in the middle and you're always going to be better off. So what's the premise of this whole thing? Again, we are in a war. It is a full-blown trade war which is escalating with no end in sight. We are going to hear more propaganda. There's going to be more attempts to prop up the stock market. It's part of the illusion, part of the trade war. Oh, look at the American economy. It's so strong. Meanwhile, we all understand it's the propping up of the debt market, the actual buying of stocks. Okay, from the Federal Reserve, Wall Street banks, however they got to do it, to keep it propped up. It's not real. This is a completely 100% managed market. And we're going to need to see how this plays out moving forward, seriously. So let's just cover a few more things. I know this is getting kind of long. Stocks did finish somewhat in the red. Gold got hit again, not bad. Silver, I think, finished at the flat line. Cryptos took a little bit of a hit. The dollar did get a little bit stronger. So look at all these things. You put them all together, and it's just so simple to see how things are going to play out. Speaking of that, for now, I am going to be moving my Markets A Look Ahead segment, which I used to do on Saturdays. I'm going to start doing them on Sundays. Instead. Gives me a little bit of a break also between, Monday through Friday, working these markets, doing what I have to do. It gives me one day off and I can ponder this stuff as well during that time so I could put a better perspective on this. Now, last week, my Markets A Look Ahead, I nailed this to the wall. I explained to you what was going to happen this week. I said caution was the word for this week. Well, markets did fall under pressure. I also explained to you gold and silver were going to fall under pressure. Well, that happened as well. So I think my Markets A Look Ahead, and I'm not always right on these, but for the most part, if you've been watching my Markets A Look Ahead, I've been very, very accurate with these things. And what is it all about? Keeping us all informed, understanding what's really going on here, so we can make this work for us. This is a charade of epic proportions, and it's only going to get worse now with the propaganda because of the trade war that we are in. So be prepared for it. Be prepared to also start paying more for everything. Be prepared for small businesses to get some type of a bailout or get squashed by the corporations. Again, this is the United States of corporate America. Donald Trump is the corporate king of kings, no doubt about it. Corporate America has gotten so wealthy under this president so far in just his 2 years, while we the people have gotten in more debt than you could possibly ever imagine. Consumer debt, new record high week after week after week. Household debt, new record high week after week after week. Deficits getting larger. Debts getting larger. So we the people are on the losing end of this entire thing, and it's always the same story. It doesn't matter who sits in that pretty White House. I explained to you, same thing under Obama, same thing under the last several presidents. That's the truth. It will not change under the current guy. As a matter of fact, I think it's accelerating under this guy here, especially now with the trade wars, trade war propaganda. It's very sad. But We need to stop being divided. Don't let them play with our heads. Ignore it. It's all a show. It's a distraction, people. Focus on the things that are important. Look at what's really going on here in our economy. Forget about the fake numbers, the unemployment numbers. Look at the labor force participation rate. Look at the money velocity, the rate at which cash is moving through our economy. It's not moving, which means we're not collecting tax dollars, which means the Treasury had to start selling more debt just so we can finance where we are. You understand? We are not in any kind of a boom at all. It's a credit card. That's all that is. That's getting maxed out higher and higher and higher and higher with all the new debt that's being piled on. This is inflating the stock market because there's nowhere else to go. You cannot be in a bond. If you're in a bond right now and you're holding it for 10 years or so, with regard to the actual rate of inflation, you're losing cash. If you have your money in a savings account, you're losing cash. Precious metals, they're murdering them right now. You can't be in there. Cryptocurrencies, anytime they catch a bid, they slaughter those as well. The only place to go is in the stock market. That's inflating a bubble. You understand? All of this. Every single asset that you can think about, including the debt units in your pocket, is going to achieve a fair value at one particular point. And like I said at the end of the video I did yesterday, when this market dictates fair value, it's going to scream so loud. It's going to be heard on Pluto, which apparently is no longer a planet. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, with that said, people, it is Friday. And you know what I'm going to tell you? Because above all, this is the most important things. These three things that I'm going to tell you right now. Love each other, care about each other, and I know it's hard to do in this environment because we're all struggling a little bit here. Be charitable. Something, even if you have to donate time, a little bit, give it a little bit of yourself, and I can promise you it will come back to you multiple fold. There's no doubt about it. I don't care what faith you might believe. You might not believe in anything, and that's okay. It will come back to you anyway. All right, with that said, again, I'm going to let you all go, and you will see me Sunday when I do my Markets A Look Ahead segment. I'm looking forward to seeing you all here. Please, if I've covered things here that are interesting, important, I always love seeing that thumbs up. You know that, and I want all of you to know how much I appreciate it. I know I've asked you to give me a thumbs up if you thought my videos were worth it. Got a lot of thumbs up. Makes me feel like I'm doing a good job here, honestly. And if you think other people should hear this stuff, get it out there. It's not so hard to share it. Get it on your social networks. Let people have a real perspective, because they're not going to hear any of this from anywhere. They're going to keep living in whatever hole they've been placed in by the establishment. You know what? We're the establishment. Let's remember that. We can band together. It's our choice. Seriously. I'll shut up. See you Sunday.